why you think Greta Gerwig was snubbed from the Best Director category?
The director? I do. Thank you for giving me this moment in time. When you think about what a director means to a film, it's not just where the camera is. It is everything to do about, again, I'm not trying to other people make a film too. It's not just solely the director. But they're the captain of the ship. He or she is the person driving every bit of the message you are receiving. From the tone of the film, and Greta wrote this film. She obviously directed the film. She had a hand in every single element, the practical nature of the decision to use practical sets, the set designs, the look, the feel, the tone. Everything about this film is her child, is her brainchild. She made this film, for better or worse. You can hate the film, but she, and Margot Robbie, but she really made this film what it is.
Yeah, but that's silly. That's silly justification to be like, for better or worse, you can hate the film. Well, no, then it shouldn't be nominated.
No.
There's a lot of directors. The guy who directed House Party, fucking Calmatic, was probably devoted himself entirely and made that happen.
I'm saying for better or worse because some of the film could be polarizing to people. That's more what I was talking. Like whether you love it or hate it is what I sort of meant to say. But I think my point is that coupled with the film's cultural success, you cannot deny the cultural typhoon that this film has become. And that is the only reason, the fact that it made $1 billion, $1.5 billion maybe, I think it like 1.2, 1.3, some like well over $1 billion. And the cultural impact that it had, the wave that it sent, all those extra things are the reason that this film is even nominated. If this film flops, we're never talking about it. It's not an Oscar film. So if we're gonna give it the credit to get here because of all of those things, reward the person who made all of those decisions.
But the film's nomination for Best Picture and her being nominated for Best Writer isn't enough of a reward?
No, I'm not saying it's not an if-or situation. It can be all. Oppenheimer gets nominated in every category. It's not like, well, they got this, they should be happy. She deserves it for all of those reasons.
But this comes back to the question I asked you before then, at whose expense? Who does she deserve it more than? Because that is an if-or.
No, you're talking about, yes. I'd have to go through the list and really see. Can you read me that? I can make a decision off the top of my head. I gotta think about the directors. Do you know the
Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall, Jonathan Glazer for The Zone of Interest, Oppenheimer, Nolan, Scorsese, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Yorgos for Poor Things.
Yeah, so I'll say, is it Justine? Anatomy of a Fall.
My smart money is on you haven't seen Anatomy of a Fall.
I haven't. But
I think of course you're going to pick
and I
that.
really wanted to. It sounds like a cop-out answer, but I really did want to. I just didn't have the time to see it. It looks great. But I'm sure the film is well directed. I'm sure she is great. But I think the cultural impact that Barbie had, the amount of money that it made.
Sure, but then you're saying so should Ryan Coogler have been nominated for Black Panther?
No, but you can't say no. Here's where you're wrong. Or maybe not wrong because you didn't really say anything. Well, here's the difference.
I asked a question.
I'm so used to saying here's why you're wrong. It just rolls off the tongue. It's the reason the film is nominated. So now we can't cherry pick when it's not important.
That's your subjective opinion, though. That's the reason it's nominated.
If that film did not make $1 billion and did not create a cultural fucking wave throughout.
Well, of course, but that's a huge what if it didn't.
Yeah, that is clearly a huge driver. I'm not saying the only reason, but a really big reason as to why we're celebrating this film, why it is here. So the person making those creative decisions or responsible for saying yes or no to their team making those decisions, however you want to phrase it, the buck stops with that person. They have to be credited. They have to be credited for that.
What about Top Gun Maverick? Joseph Kosinski was not nominated for Best Director. That film made more money than any movie last year.
It's not about
and was
just
also nominated for Best Picture. Is he stiff?
I'm sure he could make a case for it. But I think the thing that I'm giving a lot of credit to is how culturally impactful the film was. Plus, it's also directed very well. Like it's like the talent is there. Then you look at the supporting elements that take that talent to make it better than other people. Like,
sure, it's one of the 10 best movies of the year according to the Academy.
Yes,
That's
so-
pretty great.
Yes,
pretty great.
of course. So why can't you credit the director for it? Why,
Because there's only 5
understand.
slots, and you thought 5 films were better.
And yes, and I'm the person I would take out, unfortunately, is Anatomy of Fall, Justine.
But I don't think you get to say that because you haven't seen it. So you got to see it, and we'll come back and finish this conversation.
Okay.
'Cause maybe you see it and you go,
I can
"Holy
s-
shit, this is incredible! It's the best
No, I
director I've
don't.
seen
I
this
don't
year."
because that film doesn't have the cultural impact that Barbie does. I think that means a lot to me. Those other films all have, not all, because I don't know if Poor Things does either, but Oppenheimer has a sense of cultural impact that it created. Kills the Flower Moon
But that's
has a
not what this
cultural impact
category is
that
about. I understand you lending extra weight to that aspect
Yeah.
of this. But that's not what this category is meant to award. Sure, cultural
not-
impact has to be folded into it.
That's my
but like,
point.
it's also Anatomy of a Fall is a French film. So who are we to determine who had the cultural impact?
These are American awards.
We're getting into the mud a little bit.
Yeah,
Sure,
but
sure.
these are American awards. Not to say like only American, but this is award that we created. This isn't.
But when you start to overvalue, or just for the sake of this argument, overvalue, like I know you're not just saying box office success, but box office success and cultural impact, then that opens, I think, a slippery slope door to like, to what they've tried to do. Like, should we make a new category for box office success? Like we need to reward these movies that people are going to see.
No.
And it's like this Barbie has been like, here's the thing. You can wish that Greta Gerwig was nominated and think that she was deserving and think that Barbie was a good enough and impactful enough film to have warranted a Best Director nomination.
And that's what I think.
Fine. You can think
and
that
that's
way,
what I
and
think.
that's all good. But to say that she's been snubbed implies that, I mean, it doesn't imply, it says that she was robbed of this, like she deserved it and was good enough and should have been there, and somebody else got it instead. And I think that's where I'm going to take issue and say no one was snubbed here. Greta Gerwig did a great job. But these 5 directors that are nominated also did excellent and also made better films. Like that has to be it. Barbie, to me, is the 9th best picture nominee, maybe the 10th. It's 8 to 10. Like,
I mean,
I'm sorry, you did great. You made a great movie. Everybody loves it. You're just not best director.
Yes, I don't love I don't think the film as a whole is like perfect, and it shouldn't. You're right. It's toward the bottom of those 10 movies. I agree, but I think the movie, the fact that movie is even considered, the fact that we are even talking about it, is mind blowing. If I told you before the buzz of this movie came out, before the marketing of this movie came out, before you knew any of it, it's like, oh, they're making a Barbie movie. You think it's gonna be any good? Would you say, yes, people are gonna love it? People are gonna fucking dress up for Halloween for the next 10 years as these characters? That it's gonna be such a cultural phenomena? No, of course not. No one would have thought that. You would think it's a fucking dud that's just gonna go right to DVD. This person, one person, made it so it impacted millions and millions and millions of people. Like, that is the talent. That is the credit.
Yeah, she has talent. Yeah, we agree.
But that's like, that is the best part of it. Like, that's amazing, and that should be rewarded for that role, because that's what that role
all right,
deserves.
I'm sorry, I'm going to keep going. But like that argument can be applied to like look at Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall.
No.
Like, what are the odds? Hang on, that a small French film about a couple and their relationship arguing in a snow-covered chateau is now here in America, nominated for Best Picture, and is one of 5. Like, that is incredible. That is against all odds. Could anyone else have done that? Does any other French film any year do that? What are the odds that that Jonathan Glazer can make a film in the UK about Nazi Germany in World War II, and that is here? That person did that. They made that happen. Just because Barbie made a shit ton of money because, don't get me started, on the strength of an average script and a monologue that's over fucking valued, like, that doesn't mean that what she has accomplished is better or more than what these other directors have accomplished.
You are taking, I don't know how to explain that you're just, you're ruining my argument. But it's more than that. But that's what it's going to sound like I'm saying. But you're just
love that. Concede.
No, I'm absolutely not, because you're just like boiling it down to something they're not even close. Like what you're saying is you're just being a dick to be a dick. Like you're just poking at something to be like, man, well, see, what about this? Because you can't you can't technically define what I'm saying, but it is clear. I think you know what I'm saying. Anyone who is listening can understand what I'm saying and the value of what I'm saying. But yes, you can apply that same logic to literally any director who directed any movie. Yes.
And that's sort of the point of the awards.
Well, no. So you're just, that's how you're like diminishing her accomplishment. You're diminishing her accomplishment and what that film, you absolutely are. You absolutely are, because you're just saying, well, anybody has a vision, and anybody who made a film, it's their film, so therefore they should just be regarded as a great director because it's their film, right? No, that's not what's happening here. The Anatomy of Fall is just a film, and I'm sure I haven't seen it, but I'm sure it's a very good film. Looks great, people love it, that's great. But it is not what Barbie is, and what Barbie means to a whole lot of people. And how that adaptation was created in a meaningful way to millions of people. Like, there is a huge difference between those two films, culturally speaking. I'm sure if you ask people in France, I bet they don't regard it the same way people in America do the Barbie film.
Let me ask you a question. Honestly. What do you think the more impressive accomplishment is? A mainstream, famous, already nominated writer-director taking a film about a beloved IP with the backing of millions of dollars from this Mattel and from a major motion picture studio, and making a great film out of something that should be stupid. Absolutely. She made a really good film out of something that should be stupid. Or a small market from France making a film that is personal and intimate and that now is nominated for Academy Awards and is winning all these international awards and is getting all this acclaim and has its female director nominated for Best Picture. If you just looked at those things objectively and you didn't know the details about any production, wouldn't you say like, yes? I'm not even saying like the backstory immediately makes Justine Triet more worthy. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying like to just be like Greta Gerwig is the most worthy because she made this amazing thing out of something that should have been stupid, and she was the driving force behind it. Yes, I agree with all that. Should have been stupid. She was the driving force. She made something much better and more impactful than anyone else probably could have done.
Yeah.
And she deserves all of her flowers for that shit. But to just be like, oh, well, that's more important or more impressive. Like, no, this one's more impressive. Like, to me, personally. But again, that's not what this all comes down to. It comes down to who did the best job.
Then you're just valuing money. Because the way you describe it.
You like it because it was culturally impactful.
But that has nothing to do with money. Cultural impactful has nothing.
You've said, though, because it made billions of dollars.
Well, yes, that is part of it. When you look at the package, that's my point. All these boxes get checked. All of these boxes get checked. But you're just looking, the scenario you just described is just looking solely at money. This small independent, this small indie film that like just made it to the big leagues on its own like pluckiness. Wow, how did they do it when Barbie had a $145 million budget? That's just cheap and easy. You just bought your way into, that's the argument that you're making. But we know tons of
many
movies.
Arguments I'm making.
But we know tons of movies that have huge box offices that suck. Insert every Marvel movie that's come out in the last 3 years. Like that, just because a movie has money does not mean it's a slam dunk.
Of course.
So that doesn't, so I don't look at that film because of their budget and go, well, wow, that's a better story. That's a flaw in your argument.
Of course not. It's not just
But that's
budget,
the argument
though.
you're making.
No. This is just one leg of this argument, but I'm saying it's not just budget. It's just like all of it. That it's in another language. It's in a foreign film. It's a small unknown director to American audiences. Like all that stuff. It's not just like, oh, you did more with less. Like that's not what I'm talking about. It's just all of it. It's all of it too. I just think it's incorrect to just inflate Barbie and Greta Gerwig's accomplishments, or to say that she's been snubbed. When
I think
she just wasn't in the top 5. Maybe she was 6.
Maybe she was 6. I guess I care less. You force me into the corner. Like make a decision who you take out. I really care less about who you take out. I do believe she should be in that category. That's just what I believe. When you look at it, when you look at the landscape of films, you look at all the nominations, you look at all the films and what they did for this year in cinema. What is the number one story of this year in cinema?
So why do you think she's not there?
I can't answer that. I'm not on the board or whatever the fuck. I don't know. She didn't, you know why she's not there? Because she didn't have a big enough party. She didn't.
You think Justine Triet?
Grease the palms of whatever the fuck.
You think Jonathan Glazer had a big Zone of Interest themed party?
Yeah. Well, do you know
Come
why?
by, you can hear the furnace in the
why
background.
Leonardo DiCaprio's not nominated or not even in consideration? There's no talks of him at all. Is because he wanted to put his support behind Lily Gladstone. So he's not mentioned at all for a great performance. Talk about snubs. He should be in this conversation too. He had a great performance, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No one's crying for him.
Yeah, because he didn't do the parties. He didn't do his money and support went to her. Apple put it to her upon his request. Like that's what this is about. She didn't lobby hard enough for herself.
I'm sure she did. If Greta wins Best Screenplay, can we all shut the fuck up about it? Are we all satiated?
No, it doesn't. To me, it doesn't. The point is still the point. If we are going to base these things on some sort of merit, which we don't, none of these are merit. They're based on parties and money, blah, 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 blah. But if we're going to base them on merit and we're really going to look at these things objectively, I think objectively, for the things that she accomplished this year in film, she deserves to be recognized for that. And I know you say that she is, and she was
nominated. She's nominated for Best Picture.
In that category. She's the person, she's the director of that film. She deserves to be recognized for it.
But you're sure, this coming from the guy with a t-shirt like yours.
Who bought it? I don't have a receipt for it.
Finally. No wonder Keith hates Justine Triet.
I'm not even going to hold it up, but I need to keep, I'm not going to do it.
Cut to the still.